So we've arrived at the end of 2025, my friends, and that rhymes, so it must be true. But let's forget about real problems we may have in our lives or things that are happening in the actual world, because it is time to go through the last 12 months and decide when it comes to WWE what deserves an up and what deserves a down. And yes, straight away, you may be going, but Simon, back in March, you gave this an up, and vice versa. But things change, brains change, you get more thoughts and you get more opinions that will always sway how you are thinking about something. But also, hindsight is the most powerful tool when it comes to pro wrestling. And on occasion, you can watch one thing and go, this is absolutely rubbish. And you give it 6 months, you look back and you go, you know what? It wasn't as bad as I first thought. However, of course, you are allowed to yell at me in the comments below. That's what this is all about. And please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe and do all that good YouTube stuff. And more importantly than all of this, I hope you've had a terrific 2025. But yes, this is WWE. This is what they did over the last 12 months. Let's give the good bits an up and the bad bits a down. And we're going to start with an up-down. That's right, I'm going to break my system. Shout out to that guy on the internet today. They got so mad that I would ever dare stand on the fence, because we are dealing with important stuff here. But John Cena's heel turn, I actually find very difficult to talk about in black and white terms, because I just think it's a little bit more nuanced. Like if you go back to the Elimination Chamber, when he did boot Cody Rhodes right in the balls and he teamed with The Rock and some other guy, also known as Travis Scott, it was awesome, it was excellent. And I know this being a content creator, because any kind of video you put up talking about John Cena's heel turn, it didn't matter if you were just sort of stood there in perpetual motion and you didn't say a word. People were so desperate for information, they were so desperate for reactions, because we all wanted to be a part of this seismic moment. And then yes, everything after that was so confusing, because Dwayne Johnson did just vanish for reasons we're still not so sure about. But I actually think that some of the promos Cena did do were pretty damn good. Like when he was in Belgium and that poor kid that got absolutely destroyed and he was talking about toxic relationships. To me, this was a bit like, well, at least we got it eventually to see what John Cena, the bad guy, could do. But yes, the story didn't make any sense and quite clearly was thrown off a cliff. Then you do get to the last 6 months where he overfilled you with joy, which is a terrible way to say it, and I don't mean that as a euphemism. So once again, I just think it's more difficult than going, oh man, it was the worst thing ever. However, with all that said, I do think now we're using once again that wonderful thing known as hindsight. You probably would lean more towards a down, because ultimately, you wouldn't have got to August when he was going back into his Cody Rhodes feud, and the way he flipped back Babyface was just by going, man, you know what, Cody, you do make a great point. I don't know why I was being such a negative Nancy. And then he even apologized to that same child. Well, this actually ties into my next point, so I hit poise right there. But yes, I do agree with you overall. And again, you are my, what's the word I'm looking for? Empowerers? That's a weird thing to say. I massively regret it, but I am going to give it a down. But when I actually do look back, I'm just glad that WWE gave it a go. Because as I've always said, I'd always rather any wrestling company throw some stuff at the wall, take some risks, otherwise wrestling can be so boring. And also, yes, I now do need to go into my other point because I'm giving it up for the latter part, the latter 6 months, the second half of the year, when it comes to John Cena. And I think one of the reasons that was so good and did make you feel warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum is because of all the heel stuff we did beforehand. And that's why everyone was like, oh man, this is what we should have been doing beforehand. But you just know if we had been doing that from January through to August, come August, the same people would be going, oh, this is boring. We need to do something different. And that's why I think as a whole piece of work, I actually quite like it, but yes, when we did get past August, I mean, you have the awesome match with Cody Rhodes, which is brilliant. You have the AJ Styles match, which I actually may talk about independently later on. I think it's so damn good. Even the Logan Paul match was good, and everything he did with the IC title and Dominik Mysterio, well, man, kick me up the wazoo and send me to Funtown, which again sounds like the worst thing anybody has ever said in relation to pro wrestling. And of course, it all built to his retirement, and you were crying out of your seeing devices, you had water coming out of your eyes, because it's John Cena, man, and he kind of claims we may never see him again, which is sort of ironic. I'm sure he'll make the appearance on Raw and SmackDown here and there. But he is one of the best, he is one of the GOATs, and sometimes it is about the destination. The journey was absolutely fun, it was absolutely mad, and it was absolutely nuts. But when you got to that final day, just like, yes, John, thank you for the years, thank you for the childhood that you gave me in many ways when it comes to sports entertainment. And thank you for just all the ludicrous and best and awesome moments throughout the years. So I am giving it an up. We even got a couple of fine speeches in there too. And imagine I had told you back in January he was going to have somewhat of a mini feud with Dominik Mysterio. I think we all would have been pleased about that. So I take my finger of power, I thrust it towards the skies. If I was going to take John Cena's 2025 overall, well, I actually personally had a good time. Because sometimes, even when it doesn't work on TV, I still think there are certain excellent parts you can take away from it. So I'm glad it happened. I will miss him, and you bet your ass he one of the GOATs. This is where I'm going to pull another up from out of nowhere too, because you know who I am going to give a lot of praise for their 2025? Once again, you won't agree. Solo Sikoa. Because this guy has just entertained me so damn much. And a lot of it has been what he does off camera. Like, obviously, he was a manager for a lot of 2025, given that he did have his MFTs. And some of his mannerisms, some of the things he would shout, especially at Jimmy Uso, were absolutely hilarious. And during Halloween, when WWE had that skeleton, Solo Sikoa was kind of dabbing with it. Sometimes I do think WWE has miscast Solo. Like, we present him as a main event heel, like a tough guy, which is totally fine. But at some point, I think we need to flip him to goofy, funny comedy villain, right? I just do. I think he would be so good at it. I don't say that disparagingly. I don't think he needs to be de-pushed because of that. I just think out of every single person that we were looking at the start of the year, he has come out the end of 2025, and I like him more than I did, and that has to stand for something. Also, he had a US title reign. Also, he kind of did move away from the bloodline, although he just rebranded it to the MFTs, but at least he made it his own. So yeah, I'm giving Solo Sikoa an up. He's become one of my guys. We talked about this before. Sometimes you're just watching, and it can be anybody. A Solo Sikoa, a Charlotte Flair, a Dominik Mysterio, the list goes on and on. And for whatever reason, you just like, I like that person, and I'm gonna support that person no matter what they do. Solo Sikoa has achieved that in 2025, so I'm sure he's over the moon. He's also gonna get an up, so I've made his Christmas, but the man rules. Right, let's get into the downs as well, and this one is going to be quite controversial maybe, although I think there's one thing we do have to shout out. But going back now and watching the event again, I kind of think, especially in comparison to WrestleMania 40, well, WrestleMania 41 as a two-night event, it's got to get a down. And listen, there are some awesome matches throughout all of this. I mean, the night one main event with Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk with the big Paul Heyman turn is awesome. When you do watch the whole thing, it's just a bit like, drab is too strong, but it kind of lacks the magic, the pizzazz, the oh my gosh, I can't believe it, you'd expect from WrestleMania. And maybe that's because WWE did such a good job, really, with WrestleMania 38, WrestleMania 39, and WrestleMania 40. It would be quite difficult to go 4 years. I don't want to call it one of the worst manias of all time, because that's way too extreme. But I did go back and watch it a second time, and again, aside from a few individual matches, I kind of walked away going, you know what? I never need to watch this again. And I'm sure a huge part of it is, of course, because of that Night 2 main event with John Cena and Cody Rhodes, which I will stand on this till the day I die, is good for like 50% of it. It only falls down when Travis Scott takes 122 years to walk to the ring, for two reasons. I mean, one, that one, but also, when the music hits, everybody thinks it's The Rock. Even when Travis Scott gets to the ring, people still think Dwayne Johnson's gonna come out. So when he doesn't, everybody, you can see it, go look at the crowd, it's just like, I'm a sad panda. All I wanted was The Rock. And I think that's when people got a bit worried about the heel turn as well. But up to that point, like I say, John Cena is having the time of his life as a heel. And he's just doing punch, kick, punch, kick. I quite like it, but then you have the championship change, the big 17. Because there were just so many things missing, you don't leave dancing and doing the boogie of joy. You kind of leave going, I don't really understand what happened and no one has given me an explanation. So I will give it a down, and I think WWE is aware of that as well, and given that WrestleMania 42 is back in Vegas, they will probably deliberately try to chump this, but I am going to give it a down. I pointed in the wrong direction there. Just not what we were expecting, and maybe not what WWE was hoping to achieve. But there is no way that I am not talking about Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky versus Bianca Belair for the Women's Championship, which doesn't just get an up, it gets a golden up. And given that we have got to the end of the year, you bet your ass, this is one of the best bouts of 2025. And in terms of openers, let's talk about WrestleMania openers. I hold it right up there with the best of the best. I mean, it's flawless. It's like a Mortal Kombat game. They don't get anything wrong. Apart from Bianca Belair getting injured, and that sucked because she was out for the rest of the year. But the timing, the ring psychology, the near falls, and the surprise that Io Sky walks away with the championship, it is just so much fun to watch. And actually, if you want to come into my house now and say it's the best match that either of these three people have had, I would probably agree with you. And the fans are going crazy from moment one until moment end. And that just means you have this incredible atmosphere, which once again, wasn't necessarily there when we got to the end of the night. But I don't think anything topped it in WWE in 2025. I mean, things certainly matched it, but nothing beat it. And if Rhea Ripley and Io Sky and Bianca Belair are out there right now thinking about it, I hope they are over the moon, because this is a brilliant match, and you can get rid of the WWE, you can call it AEW, TNA, Ring of Honor, New Japan, I don't care. It stands up against anything. I think it's flipping damn good. It's getting a golden up. Back to the Downs, however, now that we have had 12 months to think about this, and I did talk about this a lot on my weekly show, I don't think the tag team division has been very good. Now, of course, there have been loads of brilliant matches, especially on SmackDown, when from nowhere we're having those incredible TLC bouts. But overall, we just need to merge the titles, especially because over on Raw, there just wasn't enough depth, which is totally crazy, really, because the New Day are absolutely awesome. Finn Balor and JD are absolutely awesome. The War Raiders are absolutely awesome. And I know there have been some other teams that compete for that thing, but you won't have seen this because I would edit it together. After that last one, I stared off into the distance and tried to remember what else had gone down, and it's just been so meh and so there. And it's not the talent's fault, it's just the way that it has been booked. Sometimes the tag team championships are important, sometimes they're not. I mean, Finn and JD held it for like 150 days and defended the damn things once. That is just totally ludicrous. So this is never going to happen, but in 2026, I would take the SmackDown tag team titles, I'd take the Raw tag team titles, I would push them together, then all of a sudden you are going to have a division that is just drowning in depth, and you can have great match after great match, and other teams can then get involved in story work, but we didn't do it. And listen, I don't want to ignore what we did do in that crazy TLC match, like I did say, because that was one of the matches of the year, but it just never really reached the heights that we had when we had the Usos taking on Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. That main evented WrestleMania Night 1, and when you do those kind of things, you want to build off of it. You want to make sure when we get to 39, 40, 41, and 42, the tag mates still feel like gold, and they don't at the moment. They kind of just feel like they're out there hanging around playing Nintendo, and that's not the way. But again, we still have these teams, so the potential is always there, so I will keep everything crossed for a better 2026. And look, Fraxium got called up, and they did great. Then they vanished too. It was like, where did they go? Why aren't they doing anything? I do believe you do have to give it a down, but I'm going to keep everything crossed that it gets better over the next 12 months. Let's get into some of the returns from 2025 though, because maybe one of the best ones, something to argue about, is when AJ Lee returned to team with CM Punk at WrestlePalooza. And when she did come out on that Raw, SmackDown, I can't remember now, but to get in Becky Lynch's face, you gotta give it an up. It's pretty flipping good. Of course, it was one of those never say never moments because nobody thought Aj was ever going to return to WWE. And the fact that her and CM Punk went in there with Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, look, whether you liked the match or whether you didn't like the match, it was just a proper how the flub did we get here to begin with. And also, AJ Lee's first promo in 10 flubbing years, whatever it was to talk about mental health. And I think that's massively important. Sure, it may not be affecting you right now, but every single human person on this planet is gonna have to deal with it at some point. So maybe you stumble across AJ Lee's promo and that just makes you feel a little bit better. That's way more important than wrestling. And yes, she vanished soon after this before she did return for the War Games, but that's okay, because absence does make the heart grow fonder. But just go back and watch that pop when she does skip to the ring and have a look at CM Punk's face. And also, Becky and Seth sell it so damn well. It's like Thanos has just arrived in WWE and he's about to use the Infinity Gauntlet. I think, and I could be wrong here, but it's definitely top 3 at the very least. It is my favorite return of 2025. It was just awesome. It just made you feel good in your tootsie toes. And I would guess that she'll be around for 2026 and probably have a bunch of runs with the Intercontinental title too. And maybe at some point she goes after the World Championship as well, because all the pieces fit together. I'm giving it up. I thought it was great. And long may her run continue. Some people were struck down in 2025 as well, though, and I stand by this, even though a lot of people may not agree. I mean, Kevin Owens getting injured sucked to begin with, because you don't want anyone to be hurt. But I think WWE actually suffered when he did go away, because that's how much he brings to the entertainment product. It also robbed us of Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton, which actually would have helped WrestleMania 41. Although I did love the Joe Hendry surprise, I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But it's just, Kevin Owens is good, right? I've talked about this before, I did a whole video on it. I call him the modern day GOAT, and in my top 10 list, I now think he's in 3rd position. Like, I need to sit down and think about this properly. But he can be babyface, he can be heel. And actually, before he did have to go away with those neck problems, I thought he was on the run of his life. Like, WWE just kept throwing anything at him, opponent stories, plot holes, and he would just find a way to tie it all together. And he was funny, and he would make you laugh. And he cut a lot of very, very good promos from his car. So he just absolutely sucked, and I remember at the time being like, no, but of course wrestling is not important when you do compare it to your health. So I hope he's getting back to 100%, I hope he's feeling good, I hope he's enjoying time with his family. And if he can return in 2026, I will die on this hill as well. All of a sudden, WWE will be twice as good as it was, because that's just what KO brings to the table. Giving it a down. I did it again. Quite clearly it's a down. It's rubbish. Let's get back into the fun stuff though as well, because do you know who else had a banner 2025? We kind of talked about it earlier, and who is getting a massive up? Dominik Mysterio. It's just so funny, because if you go back to his SummerSlam debut against Seth Rollins, everyone was like, oh, Dominik sucks so bad, man. He's just Rey Mysterio's son. Well, as it turns out, being a Mysterio is good when it comes to pro wrestling, because you just have sports entertainment in your genes, which once again sounds absolutely ridiculous. But he doesn't even feel like the same guy. He's so damn over that whenever WWE wants to flip into babyface, that will absolutely work. And as we do move into a new year, I'm convinced probably come 2027 compared to 2026, that Dominik Mysterio should be the World Heavyweight Champion or the WWE Champion. We should at least give him a go, because that's how good and entertaining he is. When he was doing that feud with John Cena as well, he was not phased at all, which is a massive feather in his cap. Like, John Cena even fine speeched him, and Dominik just stood there, and he had the facial expressions, he knew how to react, and he didn't look overwhelmed at all, and that's what you want from someone who is going to continue to climb up the ladder. His matches are also great. Everything he did down in AAA was ridiculous. He basically became Stone Cold Steve Austin circa 1998 down there. People go crazy for him. And he is one of my guys. We talked about this, they talked about it again. I'm always excited to see what he's going to do every single week. He understands sometimes as a heel that you have to eat crap. That's not the right word I'm looking for. But he doesn't mind showing his ass, right? He'll be a coward, he'll get beaten up, he'll run away. And that just makes him more enjoyable to watch. He may get the biggest non-gold that I could possibly give. And if he does even this a little bit more in 2026 than they did do in 2025, well, the future is bright, man. And the future is the condom. And someone else I think who deserves to be in that bracket too is somebody that debuted, so we should put some love on that as well. It's pretty much everything Penta did throughout the year. Because there was a lot of worry, oh, how is WWE going to treat him? Which is fair, because sometimes people have been brought in from other companies, and it hasn't worked. Like, I'm not going to give an up or down to Phoenix, for example, because he's just kind of trapped in the middle. But Penta was presented like a superstar thanks to that awesome entrance, and ever since then, he has led so hard into his character while also having great matches, that now the entire WWE universe thinks this guy is great. They give him massive pops. And look, a large amount of people that watch Raw won't even have known who he was before he did debut, because they live in that WWE bubble. Which is perfectly fine, by the way. You're allowed to be a fan however you choose. I just think he's exceeded expectations in many ways. And while I'm now repeating myself, and I don't think it is on the cards, he'd be another guy that at least once on TV, I would try in a main event level going for that world title, because I think the fans would buy in. Also, he just has so much more he can do in WWE, because eventually we will put the Lucha Brothers back together, and if you're a nerd and a geek like me, that will set you crazy as well. So I kind of feel like he can continue this momentum on, and he can just kind of double it and triple it and find other opportunities that he can lean into. And also, WWE could let him promo more. Remember when he did debut and he just cut the most endearing speech ever? You're like, ah, Penta, you're such a wonderful person. So we're still kind of scratching the surface with it, and also hasn't dropped the ball at all. Every single match he did was awesome. He managed to sneak the Canadian or Mexican Destroyer back into WWE as well. So he has ticked every single box. I think he's had a great year. Giving him up. Somebody I wasn't as enthused about when they did come back in 2025 is Brock Lesnar, though. If you want to get into the nitty-gritty and the elephant in the room, and I would implore you to find that episode of SummerSlam, the ups and downs of SummerSlam, and I did talk about it. But yes, I personally would have waited until all this legal stuff had been wrapped up, so at least we know where we did stand from a personal point of view. But even if we are just looking at it from a storyline or a pro wrestling perspective, I just think if Brock Lesnar was going to return to WWE in 2025, we needed to shift and change the character a little bit. V did not do that at all. I mean, he did come back at the Slam of the Summer to beat up John Cena, and then he was gone for like 45 years. When he turned up to build his WrestlePalooza match with John Cena for 2 weeks, and on 1 week he even turned up on SmackDown after John Cena had said the week prior, I would never be on SmackDown again. So it was so damn silly. Then he squashed John Cena in 2 minutes, whatever the flub it was, as a callback to the SummerSlam 2014 match, which also nobody wanted. And then he returned for the War Games in true Brock Lesnar fashion, because he comes and he goes, and he comes and he goes, and he just beats everybody, yeah? I don't know, I've just seen it before. And also, don't forget, back in 2016, one of the reasons people got so sick of that Universal Championship is because Brock Lesnar held it, and he never came to work. And now we're just doing it again. I get it, he's not a world champion this time, so it's not as bad. I don't want to feel like I'm watching a television program from 10 years ago. I really do think we should have done something new, even more so because it's new WWE, it's under new management. So it wasn't for me, and that's not saying that it's not for you. People love to get crazy about it, but there was a time for sure when he would walk out, I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's Brock Lesnar. And I just don't feel that way now. And in fact, a small part of me is just like, well, I know how this is gonna go. Suplex, and then, yeah, he'll be on a milk carton because nobody knows where he is, giving it down. Going back to SmackDown though, because John Cena did retire, Sami Zayn won the US title and was like, haha, I know how to pay homage to you, my friend. I'm gonna do my own open challenge. My gosh, it was absolutely brilliant. I mean, he just had banger matches with everybody and even did one with Javon Evans, who had a great 2025 as well, but it shone a spotlight on NXT talent. And then you also had the big return of Ilya Dragunov, who of course would beat Sami Zayn. That match was brilliant. Like, it scared the absolute shit out of me because I'm pretty sure they just beat the crap out of each other for real. But in terms of watching SmackDown, which at points throughout 2025 could be pretty bad, all of a sudden you knew, well, it's okay when Sami Zayn comes out because he's going to light up the room with his fighting. It's kind of funny as well because before that and after that, Sami Zayn was in a very interesting position. Like, he kept hinting that he was going to go after the world title and then he just stopped. And I suppose that could happen in 2026. But this really did feel like the WWE hierarchy sat down. They were like, man, we are not absolutely getting this done on Friday nights at the moment. We need to inject some freshness into it. They called Sami Zayn, they moved him across to the brand, and he delivered and then some. I would say the John Cena Open Challenge back in 2015 was better than this. That's a stupid way to compare it. We didn't really hit those kind of highs. But in terms of something we needed in 2025, I am giving it a massive up. I think he defended it 8 times. If you haven't watched this, you should change it today, especially because somebody must have told Sam, oh, this is going to go on for a little while. So how did he start winning matches? With the least devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the Blue Thunderbomb. But at least for a few weeks, it was one of the most devastating moves, and that surprised everybody. And I don't even think he's hit it once since that did all end, but it does get an up. It's very, very well done. Let's get into a pet peeve of mine now, and this was mostly on Raw, but I'll throw SmackDown in there too. I even started a counter to try and prove this point. The amount of distractions and interference and the confusion that WWE relied on, especially in some of those main events throughout the summer, good grief, it was way too much. So after a while, if you are just doing that, people will sit down to watch no matter what the match is, and they will be like, well, quite clear, I'm not going to get a finish here, because every single time WWE sends someone to the ring, that's when we introduce the dick board, distractions, interference, and confusion, because I'm a 7-year-old boy. But a lot of it was with the vision, and that kind of made you mad as well, because at least Seth Rollins' idea was to have a bunch of troopers around him so he could take over the show. But when it was happening in every single other bout, at every single angle, and every single storyline, and every single narrative, you were like, well, you're not doing anything special, Seth Rollins. You're just doing what everyone else is doing. And also Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, why the flub don't you care? It just got boring, is the truth of it, and that would be the same with any walk of life. You can't do something over and over and over and over again, especially when you are throwing together last-minute tag team matches, and expect the audience not just to get a little bit fed up with it. At least that's what happened to me. Sometimes WWE would pull out something that was super creative, but even as late as early November, or late November I should say, WWE was still doing it when they'd be like, haha, it's Cody Rhodes versus Bronson Reed. That was exciting. And how did it end? With distraction, interference, and confusions. I'm such a nerd, maybe I'll try and sort of work this out, but in terms of countouts or DQs or just non-contests, I bet they were through the roof in 2025, and wrestling is a creative endeavor, so you can do whatever you want. You could send a llama out there, the llama goes, meh, and everyone goes, that's not a noise a llama makes, and somehow that gets pinned. I don't know what that meant. That was gibberish. It's like I've been doing drugs. The whole point is getting it down. There was a time for a good 3 months, it's all WWE did, and yeah, I'll just say it again, it got boring. However, I mentioned it earlier, and now I do want to give it some proper love. AJ Styles versus John Cena at Crown Jewel 2025. Well, in many ways, it may have been my perfect wrestling match. Now, so many people called it an homage to sports entertainment, which is what it was. But the criticism thrown at it was, well, if you weren't AJ Styles and John Cena, you wouldn't have been able to get away with this. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but they are AJ Styles and John Cena, and that's why they were able to get away with it. I've said this before, you can't go in that Batman game, wouldn't be good if Batman wasn't in it. Batman is in it. I just absolutely love the fact they went out of the box with this though, and of course, did tributes to Samoa Joe and Christopher Daniels and Kurt Angle and Bray Wyatt and The Miz and Randy Orton and Rey Mysterio. The list goes on and on and on. And you also have the introduction that AJ Styles wasn't ready for, that John Cena had written for him because, of course, AJ Styles has told us he is going to retire in 2026. So not only did you have emotions going, John Cena and AJ Styles for the last time, you then had more sadness because John Cena, he's retiring. Then you had future upsetness because you're like, oh my gosh, we're losing AJ Styles as well. So you could take all of that and just hurl it at the screen and enjoy this in the best way possible, even more so because Australia had decided it was John Cena Day. Every single one was wearing some John Cena merchandise. I think you could show this to someone that didn't like wrestling and explain it in a sentence, and even they would find it fun. And it's exactly what I like about this dumb industry, this dumb business, this dumb sport. You can do whatever the flub you want, as long as everybody does agree. Quite clearly they did, and it was just fun. As I said on social media, I thought it was delightful. Like I am a ye olde gentleman, I wouldn't have changed any of it. And in terms of matches I enjoyed throughout the entire year, at the very minimum, this is top 3, and I'll do a list like that eventually, and maybe even gets bumped up to number 1. I thought it was joyous, I thought it was perfection, and done at the right time. Let's gang it up. Something else happened at that show as well that I think we do need to send more love on as well, which is barely a sentence. But Bronson Reed did go, g'day mate, I'm going to beat you Roman Reigns in Australian street fight, which I am undefeated in. And I'm still surprised by that. That pay-per-view happened months ago. I just kind of think it put Bronson in a bracket that nobody was expecting at the start of the year, when everybody was like, okay, I understand why Bron Breakker has been aligned with Seth Rollins, but Bronson Reed can just be sort of the big heater dude. But no, he is one of the only people in the last 5 years to get a pinfall victory over the Tribal Chief, and sure, there was a bunch of shenanigans, but I don't think anybody cared, because all of a sudden, this is just how wrestling works, you could look at Bronson and go, oh my gosh, he's a much bigger star than I thought he was going to be, and it's not like he wasn't able to back it up with his work. The dude is like super duper whooper good. So it's one of those moments where I was like, thank you WWE for taking a chance, because Roman came back sporadically throughout the year and he was still one of the biggest stars on the brand. It's not like there were people in the crowd going, well, I can't like you anymore, Roman, because Bronson Reed beat you. No, we made sure we executed it in the way where Roman Reigns can still be Roman Reigns, the head of the table, the Tribal Chief, and Bronson Reed, well, you could just keep an eye on, and I really hope he wins a big title in 2026 and gets an elongated reign. Like, I'm always the guy that's like, you can hot potato the belt a little bit, not with Bronson. I would always make sure people talk about this. When he does hold that belt, it should be like, nobody can take him down, because not only is he massive, but yes, he did beat Roman. I just loved it. I thought it was different. I thought it was unexpected. When I did my predictions, I even said, nobody beats Roman Reigns, because I'm an absolute loser. I'm giving it an up. And if you are going to be in the big heel group on Monday Night Raw, there should be something you can show for it. And now Reed can be like, well, I told you I made the right decision, mate. This is one of the most unexpected things we did, but also one of the best. And let's not forget about Evolution 2, which did happen through 2025. Nobody is talking about that anymore, but every single female that was booked on that show went, we'll show you WWE, we know what you're doing. I actually think it was better than the first one. It always has an absolute brilliant ending as well, because of course you get Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky in the main event. And not only would they use that to become best friends towards the end of the year, but it's when Naomi came in to cash in her Money in the Bank contract, become the champion, and really start that heel run. And you can't even get mad how it ended, because Naomi and Jimmy Uso got pregnant, and that's just lovely news. But yeah, if you've forgotten how good Rhea versus Io was, you should check it out. And I remember there was some criticism like, oh, the gimmick at the end took away from it. I don't think so, because we took Naomi and we made sure we threw her into a tippity top position too, and she was coming out and she was still the show on Raw all of the time because her promos were so damn unhinged. I really like this pay-per-view, and once again, if we were going to rank the WWE shows throughout 2025, surely this has to be in the top 5 minimum, and even then I think you've got to bump it up into the top 3. It is absolutely excellent and very well executed, to use that word again, up. When we get to something that's very difficult to talk about, but I do understand where this person was coming from, somebody said to me on social media the other day, Simon, do you think WWE kind of suffered from a weird creative malaise in 2025? They didn't do Scott Hall spooky fingers. When I thought about it, I was like, yes, I do believe they did. And a lot of it is the stuff we've already talked about. The main event of WrestleMania 41 that didn't really quite hit in the way that we wanted to. All the distractions that kind of made Raw feel like Groundhog Day here and there. All the people that we thought were going to get pushed but then went cold instead. I don't think Aleister Black is in a better position than he was when he debuted. And Damian Priest, I don't know what the flub we're doing with that guy. And even someone like Miro, who I love. He's had some great matches throughout the year. but he just kind of feels like he's stuck in the same place. The tag team belts will be thrown into that equation as well, and who the hell knows what we're doing with that. I don't want to give too much away here, but there's also the Women's US Championship. I think WWE may have forgotten that existed. Still never cares run as the Women's World Champion as well took forever to get going, and while I like the Nikki Bella feud, once again it just came about in such a weird way. Maybe we're just comparing this to the kind of stuff WWE did do in 2022, 2023, and 2024, when they were hotter than a hot thing. And while I wouldn't say we got ice cold in 2025, we just lost a little bit of that secret pizzazz that sometimes is lying under the surface. So I am going to give that a down, but I still also kind of think the WWE will rectify that in 2026. Well, saying that, it depends on ticket prices. I think that actually tied into this malaise as well. When you've got to pay like $1,000 to attend Raw, you're not going to enjoy it as much, and it is going to create a bad atmosphere. But I don't want to get too bogged down in statistics and things like that. But yes, I did agree with you, and if you know what this guy was getting at, drop me a comment below. It is getting it down. Flip that around though, because there was somebody that actually went out there and had a terrific 2025 and elevated a belt in the process. And that is Becky Lynch and the Women's IC title. Now, I absolutely loved her heel character, and I think a lot of it was actually quite nuanced that went over people's heads, because she was absolutely hilarious. And think of all the stuff she did with Lyra Valkyria. Think of all the stuff they did when Bayley got involved. And even the big surprise with Maxine Dupree when Maxine won the IC title in Madison Square Garden. And you can say that Maxine is too green or she needs more reps. That's probably true, but quite clearly she cares, so she will improve. But just to get that kind of a moment with a secondary title is exactly the kind of stuff that we should be doing, because WWE is obsessed with having these long runs if you do have a world title, and in that case, with the rest of your trinkets, you have to pass them around here and there. And Maxine Dupree, by whatever means, basically beat Becky Lynch 3 times. I just thought it made you feel warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum. And at the same time, I do think Lyra Valkyria feels like a bigger star because of what she did do with Becky Lynch. The first time she turned heel, I still thought it was good, but this one just feels more like the right place and the right time. And that line that she kept dropping, like, I'm the best, it's not just me saying it, Sports Illustrated is saying it, and some of the stuff she did on social media, honestly, I think there is a certain creative element to this character, which, yeah, not everybody does understand, but I think she's been brilliant, and as you'll see in other videos that may already be live, I think she's one of the wrestlers of the year. I think she has once again proved that in terms of women's wrestlers in WWE, she is ahead of the pack. She's a Hall of Famer. She is an all-timer, so Sports Illustrated were right, and I am going to say it too. I'm giving her an up. And of course, she kind of teamed with this person as well at the War Games, because we do have to talk about Asuka's return. I mean, that whole thing was flipping brilliant as well. Like, she was only basically back for sort of 4 or 5 months in the WWE schedule of 2025. As far as I'm concerned, she is still one of the best of the year. The heel turn was so damn well done, and the way she came across, she didn't want to be a cool bad guy. She didn't want to be someone you go, oh man, I secretly like you, Asuka, even though she's so damn good in the ring, you can't help it. But some of the stuff she was doing backstage and the way she was bullying Kairi Sane, it actually got a bit uncomfortable. It's like, Asuka, maybe you want to turn it down a little bit. Everybody thinks you're nuts. Now, I'm pretty sure I would have put her in the all-timer category anyway, but now she is like 41 or 42 years old, and she is still putting in these in-ring performances, and now her character is somehow better than ever, and it was always pretty good. Well, I think we need to have that conversation at a much louder level. Every single thing she touched turned to gold. And do you remember when we had that tag team match? I think it was in Australia too. And for about 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, whatever the flub it was, Asuka and Io Sky had a fight. If you were to take that and compare it against anything else throughout the year, it would stand up to it. It was so damn good, and I'm not over it. So she's absolutely going to get it up, and at some point she can go back babyface as well. But I need all these big singles feuds in 2026. I need Asuka versus Kairi Sane eventually. I need Asuka versus Io Sky. I need Asuka versus Rhea Ripley. I need Asuka versus Bianca Belair. I need Asuka versus Alexa Bliss. I need Asuka versus Charlotte Flair. And other people that I'm properly forgetting. Whole point is this: Asuka gets an up, or an Asuka up, she flipping rocks. Let's go back to what I talked about earlier as well, though, and you can't even argue with me on this one because I wouldn't agree with you. The US Women's US Championship, which is not what it's called, has not been good at all. Like, I love the fact that Chelsea Green won it at the end of 2024, but she randomly lost it to Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega then randomly lost to Julia. Julia then vanished for a while, and she randomly lost it to Chelsea Green, and for some reason she became friends with Kiana James, who was her agent or something, and then we teased stuff with Jade Cargill, and we never did that, and then after Julia lost the belt, she once again fell into the abyss. We don't have to talk about this a lot. I do not get it. There was also a report, and always take news stories like that with a pinch of salt, that WWE openly admitted, well, we only made that title for something to do, and we don't have any big plans. It's like, well, yeah, no ship, Sherlock, but we can. I love the fact that as I am talking to you, Chelsea Green has got it back, but we need proper feuds, we need proper programs, we need promo time so fans can invest in it. But the booking of it has been pretty damn dire, which again has nothing to do with the talent. It's probably the biggest down I could give on this list. I do have another down that is kind of a silly down, but also something I think we want to throw in there in case we do start walking down that lane. I like war games, always like war games. I always think that everybody goes out there and absolutely busts their ass. But this was the first year in a while where I was like, kind of feels like we're doing war games just because we always do war games. So I said this about Blood and Guts too, because I want to make everybody know that I'm trying to be balanced here, because people still go nuts. But I kind of think that you should always take one story and tie it into a War Games in November. But if it makes more sense for the women, do the women's War Games. It makes more sense for the men to the men's War Games. And listen, when you go and look at that men's team from 2025, it was absolutely ridiculous. So if this is the year we say to the women, hey, you're going to do a traditional Survivor Series match, say, that would be totally fine. It was just a bit weird when all of a sudden Nia Jax and Lash Legend were a team just because we needed to put more people in the War Game. And once again, of course they went in there and they totally destroyed it because they're so talented. I just don't want to go back to a world where we have Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. So you put people in Hell in a Cell. And I start thinking about 2019 and Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins, one of the worst things of all time. And it wasn't even their fault. So I am going to give that like a minor down. But even I think I've been a bit extreme there. But I did think it. I did say it on other videos. So I've kind of screwed myself. I tell you what I did like though, even though we had zero brackets whatsoever and a lot of it was random, I thought the John Cena tournament was a great idea. Because not only did it really underline the fact that John Cena is one of the GOATs, he is all-time and he is brilliant, but just knowing you'd have a WWE superstar within kayfabe and probably in reality too, being like, well, I would like to be the last person to take on John Cena, that just works, and you can't do that with everybody that is retiring, so if all of a sudden it does land in your lap, you should take advantage of it. Now, yes, there should have been brackets, and we should have been able to fantasy book a bit better. But who cares, man? I'm not going to cry over spilt milk. And we had the Matt Cardona or Zack Ryder surprise. We had the Dolph Ziggler surprise. That was awesome too. Gunther came back during it as well. Just thought it was very, very well done. It's probably going to be the reason Javon Evans finally gets on the main roster and starts kicking ass. I'm giving it an up. I thought it was a really, really good concept. And now let me wind you all up as well, because even though we are in December or January, wherever the flub you're watching this, let us go all the way back to January, because I still think that Jey Uso in that Royal Rumble was brilliant. Now, you don't have to like Jey Uso, that is not what I'm saying. If he's not your guy and you want to go write weird things on the internet, that's your choice. You have this kind of a freedom. But it's something that I've wanted WWE to do for years, so I'm so happy they finally got it done. Essentially, a random person or somebody we didn't expect not only went and won the Royal Rumble, but they used that to go to WrestleMania and win a world championship. It just means, and probably not in 2026, you don't want to repeat yourself, but it does mean at some point in the future, we can do it again, and it could be anyone. I just talked about Javon Evans. Maybe one day he wins the Royal Rumble when nobody's expecting it, and he becomes a super duper mega star. I mean, now we have 2 Royal Rumbles every single year. I just think on occasion you should go, you know what? Let's use this as a star-making stipulation. I just remember thinking when it did come down to him and Cena, well, of course John Cena's going to win this. I was totally wrong, and that made me happy. So yeah, it was also one of those things where I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a great year. Didn't necessarily pan out that way, but we took some risks. We've already talked about risks in this video. I am going to give it an up. You know what? That up also ties into Jey Uso. I just like the guy, so sue me. Not everybody has to fit this bizarre set of standards that you make up for pro wrestling. If you get over, you're over. That's all that actually matters. I've got some random ups I want to throw in there as well, such as the interaction between CM Punk and John Cena in the actual Elimination Chamber match. I know they went on to have their proper feud, but there was something about seeing them for the first time back in a ring together again, and their chemistry was just right as rain, as it always is. It made me happy. Or dare I say it made me feel warm and fuzzy and my tum-tum up. I'd also throw down in there for WrestlePalooza, only because WW really bigged it up as, oh my god, it's our first pay-per-view on ESPN. And once again, I don't think that lived up to expectations. I mean, it was decent, I enjoyed the mixed tag, but overall I did think it kind of, well, left you a bit empty inside, so that'd be a down. Seth Rollins' injury, I would give a down to as well, because it just kind of felt like it screwed up a lot of WWE's plans. And also a man got hurt, and you never want to see that. I would, however, give it up to Bron Breakker, not given what he did do when he turned on the Vision, but when he speared I Show Speed. Like, I Show Speed is all right, thank goodness, but it's one of those clips that you can show to anybody, And in a moment's notice, I recognize speed for obvious reasons, and I'm just happy he is okay. I suppose if you really wanted to see like somebody get speared for real, that's just a rugby. You take my point, give it in up. I also want to give it up to Goldberg's retirement as well, because I know there was a lot of controversy around this, and Bill didn't seem like he had a good time. But I really enjoyed the match with Gunther. I just thought it was nice he was able to have one last platform to say goodbye. Well, the rumor is he may do another match, but we'll wait and see. I'm a big Bill Goldberg fan. Doesn't mean I agree with everything that he does come out and say, but I always like to try and focus on what somebody has done in the ring. He was one of the reasons I tuned into WCW back in the day, because of course, who's this Bill Goldberg? So maybe to encompass his entire career, I am giving it an up. Even if there was some hoity-toity stuff, that ain't nothing to do with me. I think you do have to give it up to Joe Hendry, who just somehow continues to manifest these things into existence, and he's just very inspirational. And I'm gonna give it up to some random stuff that happened on NXT. I'm not even gonna be specific here, just the wonderful innateness and goofiness that is that show. If you don't watch WWE's third brand, you don't get it, man, but they're also breeding stars. Trick Williams is gonna be absolutely massive. I think JC Jane has proved she'll be able to do that too. Oba Femi should be main eventing WrestleMania, like yesterday, basically. I'm going to stop talking there because I'll forget about some other people. But Ricky Saints, he's doing great work. Ethan Page, oh my gosh, put Ethan Page on Raw and SmackDown tomorrow. Like, once again, a lot of the narratives are totally nuts, but I like it. And given that we do have Raw and SmackDown, you've got to have one show that you can sit down and be like, what the flub is going on? I'm giving it up. So there you go, my friends. And listen, there's been a load of things that we haven't touched upon, but that is what the comments are down there for. And you're allowed to disagree with me too, because the wonderful world we do live in. But otherwise, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which will be another end-of-year bonanza for you to get all nostalgic about 2025, if that is possible. And as we are at the start of the brand new year, or the end of the last one, thank you once again for another 12 months of support. It's crazy I still get to do this. Nobody has booted me out of a window just yet, but I'm sure it's coming. Have a great end of the year, a great Christmas, a great holiday season, a great 2026. This bald idiot will see you soon.